opportunity, because it's not just a European problem. Like all the best Americans, I'm from Canada. And in Canada, we have this, paralytic response to the American tariffs, the Trump tariffs. Our response has been, oh, we're going to impose tariffs on America too, which just makes the things that we buy more expensive, right? This is a very weird way to punish America. It's like punching yourself in the face as hard as you can in the hopes that the guy downstairs says, ouch, right? We do have alternatives to this. We could make it legal to jailbreak American products. We could reclaim the vast monopoly rents that have been extracted from our economy with a 30% tax on every dollar we spend in an app, a 51% tax on every dollar that's spent on ads, a 50 to 60% tax on all the e-commerce on Amazon. We could reclaim that from Canadian firms, and we could use that to launch Canadian firms into a stable orbit, consume that fuel that the Americans have built up to launch a Canadian tech sector into a stable orbit, from which it could continue to spin out more firms and more and more. It's a much better way to target a response. If we're going to tariff soybeans, we're just going to punish some poor farmer in a state that begins and ends with a vowel who never did anything bad to Canada, whereas attacking the highest margin lines of business of American tech monopolists goes straight after those guys who spent $1 million each to sit behind Trump on the dais, those tech CEOs. So it's a much better, more targeted response.
And it's also the part of the American economy that is growing so much. So much of the stock market growth is this tech sector, and if they're limited to just being able to function inside the United States, they're not able to get their whole thing. So by breaking this open and by undermining these intellectual property things, we can build a system by which you could choose a different discovery algorithm for TikTok.
Well, and it wouldn't exclude Americans, right?
Yeah.
Americans were the first victims of this scam. They were the people they tried it on first. And anyone with a credit card and access to the internet can download jailbreaking tools, provided they're legal and supported somewhere else in the world. It's very hard to interdict this sort of thing. Canada today exports reasonably priced pharmaceuticals to our American cousins. We could be exporting the tools of technological self-liberation. And I want to talk about the size of the market opportunity here. So let's just take one example, which is inkjet printer ink.
Yeah.
Right? We have this cartel of 4 or 5 companies that control all the inkjet printers. They use digital rights management and the anti-circumvention laws the U.S. Trade Representative has signed with the world to make it illegal to modify your printer, to disable the ink checking algorithm. So if you put generic ink in your printer, it stops working or won't work at all.
There's no difference between the ink. It's just a matter of protecting the market.
So the bill of materials for ink is a penny a gallon. The cost of material and the cost of ink in the retail market is $10,000 a gallon. It would be cheaper to print your grocery list with the semen of a Kentucky Derby winning stallion than using HP ink, right? So that is the difference. And when Jeff Bezos started Amazon, what was his message to the booksellers? Your margin is my opportunity. Right? With these guys, it's always disruption for thee and never for me. If it was legitimate for him to do this to all the retail sectors he conquered, then we should do it to him too. Moving fast and breaking things is in bad odor, but it really matters whose things you're breaking. I'm totally up for moving fast and breaking kings.
Yeah, and there is a huge margin there. Like if you can work with the legal system, if you can get the rights to go do this, and then break these very high margin markets, there's a tremendous opportunity to grow and undermine the super margins of the American companies.
And if you're a civilized country or bloc of countries that has good labor protection, good consumer protection, good privacy protection, then you have a built-in regime that says, okay, by all means, jailbreak the iPhone, and we will immunize you from liability, provided you're not violating labor law, privacy law, or consumer law. So you don't get the circumstance where people are breaking the devices open and then using that to steal from Europeans. You're only getting the circumstance where they're breaking things open and using it to deliver a consumer surplus to them.
So when we started off, we talked about the emergence of social media in 2005, 2010, and how it came in the aftermath of the dot-com collapse, where servers were cheap, where internet connections were cheap, where you had an abundance of all these equipment. We have a new boom going on around AI, and we know that this will then, boom and bust cycles.
Yeah.
How do people prepare and think about the fact that there's going to be a collapse?
Well, sure. I mean, you have 7 companies that are 33% of the S&P 500 that pass around the same $100 billion IOU and pretend that it's revenue. You've got a sector